Welcome to another video on the Coach Turf podcast. I'm Coach Daniel Northeast, that's Daniel Northeast for short. And today it's another video in this World Cup 2026 series. Hello, Colin.
Hi, Daniel. How are you? What I've got to say first and foremost is I know it's someone's birthday today and it's not mine, so that means it's yours. So many happy regards for the day and hopefully you'll have a good day.
Thank you very much. Yes, it is my birthday today, and I'm so happy that we've got England playing a bit later on in England's first game. Say first game because hopefully it's the first of as many as possible in the knockout stages. However, before we move on to looking ahead to England's game today against Congo, let's talk a little bit about the games that have been played to this moment so far in the round of 32 in the knockout stages. What can you say about those games, Colin?
Well, it's been great up until now, or up to now, and let's hope it continues. But I think what you've seen is a difference in the way the games are played. And like I said, from the opening game of the knockout stages, which was Canada and South Africa, it's always great when one of the host nation goes through. So because we've got three host nations, let's hope it continues. So that kicked off with a 1-0 win to Canada. And I said previously, but I thought South Africa were poor. And I think they did very well to indeed just qualify for the respective knockout stages of the competition. But must congratulate Canada in winning their first knockout game, which for me was a good start. Like I say, when you've got one of the host nations, it keeps the interest up. So that was fantastic for me to see Canada going through by 1-0. So that was the opening game. And then on to the game that for me was a real top game. And there's been other top games since. But we looked at Brazil beating Japan. So that was a fascinating game for me. And if I'm honest, I tipped Japan to go on and beat Brazil. But I think what we saw as the game went on, how Brazil dominated the game and were inundated with numerous chances, which they didn't take until sort of late on. So, you know, we saw the capabilities of Brazil and what they are able to produce when they come up. But like I say, Japan are very well organised. I think looking back, they had aspirations and ambitions to go on because they was very disappointed by the result. And what it said for me is how far Japanese football has come. And in particular, I think someone said they've got a plan. And when they plan, they had a 100-year plan, apparently, of where they're going to take. So if you talk about planning ahead 100 years, then, you know, that's absolutely fantastic. But like I say, Brazil winning 2-1 against Japan, it is great for football because, like I say, it's a big nation and, you know, expectations are very high. Is there anything you wanted to add about the first two games, Canada and Brazil going through to the last, what would it be, last 16 now?
You mentioned it, you know, Canada being one of the host nations, it's always nice for them to you know, to progress. I think what I liked a lot about that is that not just with Canada, but any team that plays right to the end and manages to get that goal towards the end of the game, it just shows that, you know, teams, you know, they never stop fighting. And there have been some games where both teams have been really, really good. But, you know, South Africa, they also deserve a lot of credit. I know maybe they weren't overly convincing in the group stages, but they managed to progress from the group and they got to the tournament, which is fantastic. We mentioned in one of the previous episodes that 10 African nations got to the tournament, 9 of which progressed through the group stages, and South Africa were one of them. But yeah, I mean, Canada did really well. They've got high hopes and aspirations to do as well as possible. And then you've mentioned, you know, Brazil, Japan. You know, I just thought that, you know, before the game, Brazil are growing as far you know, as the tournament's progressing. They are definitely growing and becoming more confident. But Japan deserve a lot of credit. They have been one of the teams that, you know, they never give up. They're always in the game. They try to the very, very end, and, you know, it's a credit to football.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about culture, and culturally, they are a very hard-working respectful nation. And like I say, I think we still need to give them credit for the way they tidy up after the game as well. So they showed the fans after the game, imagine how disappointed they would be. And then the fans still have the respect and just, not only the respect, they have the what's the word I'm looking for? They have the humility to be able to tidy up, pick up all the rubbish that the fans have dropped during the game. So for me, we have so much to learn from Japan. But they'll be remembered fondly in this tournament. And I think as time goes on, they will become one of the nations that will certainly progress deeper into the deeper rounds of the World Cup. Moving on, I think this was a shock to me. Germany drawing with Paraguay, only to go out on penalties. And this game had its controversy as well, because obviously, I don't know if you remember, they had a goal disallowed from a corner, which to me was a very, very soft goal. And the goalkeeper went down too easy for me, got up and then wasn't able to make the save from the header. But yeah, as someone said, and it it gets Arsenal fans going. I know that the Premier League's so different to the World Cup, but if you looked at how many goals Arsenal scored by committing a lot more serious offences than the alleged offence, but it'll go down as a free kick, and it was given. It was discussed afterwards, and then obviously going to penalties, and Paraguay eventually winning 4-3 on penalties. So Germany have come under a fair bit of criticism because of how they played. I think the German nation and fans are not really big fans of the style that they played. And there's been talk around leaving players out that people think that, should start. But that's always the case. The team that never starts never wins. And it never loses. And I think that people sort of side on the fact that, well, if they'd have played him and started with him, then it may be a different story. And like I said, fine margins, because to me, Germany really should go on. But listen, Paraguay have done okay through the tournament. And, they'll be going into the next round with full of confidence after beating Germany. So is there anything you want to add around that sort of German goal or controversial not given goal, as the case may be?
Yes, I will say something definitely about the Germany-Paraguay game. However, before I do so, just like to mention, and I agree with you, it's a great thing to see the fans of Japan, cleaning up after themselves. And it shows us all that it doesn't take a lot, just take some bags with you. Just if you're at the stadium, you've had some drink, something to eat, you have some containers or whatever, just put them in a bag and just, and be, very respectful about, the whole environment around you and that place. So well done. Fantastic. Yes. And I agree with you there. And as for the Germany Paraguay game, yeah, I agree. I predicted a win for Germany as well. But during the game, when I was watching it, so following it, I thought to myself, well, if Paraguay win, it won't be the worst thing. But then again, seeing that, that situation that you've mentioned where Germany had that goal chalked off, I didn't like that decision one bit. It was very, very soft. It's almost saying that goalkeepers should have this freedom to just do anything and you can't challenge a goalkeeper, which is ridiculous. I've never liked that. Overprotecting of goalkeepers. I just think if it happened in any other place on the pitch, a challenge and a challenge, it wouldn't have been given as a foul. It's almost like that kind of, that point where it's a shoulder and shoulder when players are fighting for the ball down the flanks or something. It's that kind of combat that you should allow. It wasn't a foul on the goalkeeper, in my opinion. It wasn't like the player from Paraguay pushed the German. It wasn't like the German player pushed the Paraguayan goalkeeper. It wasn't anything like that. It was just a normal situation where I just think it was very, very soft. And I do feel for for the German side in that moment. However, it still doesn't take away from the fact that German football is not as strong as it used to be. That we've seen this for a number of tournaments since they've won it in 2014. It just hasn't been happening for them. Something's changed in the way German football is, and so when they get to penalties, that's anybody's game. So it's anybody's game. So that and it's in a way, it's nice to see a team like Paraguay go through. But as I said, yeah, it's been there were some controversies there, but yeah, they've got to do better, Germany, and maybe they'll learn from it from this for future tournaments. But yeah, moving on now. The next game, if I remember correctly, that was a game between the Netherlands and Morocco. What can you say about that?
Well, to be fair, that again for me, a lot of people, and I've got a friend that he's very knowledgeable about football, and he's tip for the outside bet was Morocco, and I was sort of certain the way that Netherlands have started the tournament, would come out on top, but apparently I didn't watch the game. It was early in the morning over here, and I thought I'd watched the games previously. They drew 1-1, and then obviously it resulted in Morocco winning 3-2 on penalties. So another game decided on penalties. And apparently, from what I'm hearing, that Morocco were well worthy of winning that game. So, you know, you look at African football again, and Morocco being a northern African side, have got fantastic results. So, look, the African nations are developing and progressing, as you see. They've got some fine individuals. So, again, what it led to after the game is Ronald Koeman resigned from his position as the national manager. So, let's be fair, he's put some pride back in to the Dutch game, because Netherlands have been very inconsistent over the last few tournaments. We know they've got some great players, but as a team, they did look like a team. He's established a way of playing, and he got criticised over the way and the system that they used, primarily going back in the past. The Dutch were always playing a 4-3-3 with one holding midfield players and two advanced. And that's the way they played throughout the tournament. Like I said, I didn't actually see that game. Systems don't win games, players do. But like I said, when you are the national manager, there's a high degree of expectation on you. And, he's done the honourable thing in stepping back and said to someone else, like, you take over the reins now. That'd be very, very interesting to see who is appointed to take up the reins and take them on into the Euros as we go on. Moving on, I think there's a game that you would definitely want to talk about, and you may want to talk about the Morocco game in a minute with the Netherlands, but just going back to Norway, you gave Norway as your outside bet, and Ivory Coast have again done very well, and Norway sort of progressing with a 2-1 win over Ivory Coast. So, as you know, I watched that game and I see Haaland, they say it was a tap in, and it was squared, and, he just finished it. Not the most convincing if you look at the replay, but, history will tell you he scored and he's gone through. So, Norway have achieved something that they haven't achieved before. And for me, it's great for football. And I think, like I criticised the 48 team World Cup, it has allowed certain records to be broken. Whether they're relevant, they are relevant because, like I say, when you look at the history books and time in a few years' time, it say, well, we progressed from the league stages into knockout stages and went around further. So, yes, it has connotations in terms of history, but statistics don't tell you everything. It'll tell you they went through, but when you looked at how many teams have actually progressed, but let's be positive. So is there anything you want to add on either of the Netherlands-Morocco game or the Norway 2-1 victory over the Ivory Coast?
I did predict as well. Netherlands. I predicted Netherlands beating Morocco. It was the other way around. That's another game that went to penalties. But yeah, I mean, I think the Dutch can be proud of their efforts. Definitely, they looked at times very good, at times. But of course, there's room for improvement. They will be obviously disappointed, getting knocked out. But that's again, that's something that's something they need to address. To play to the end, because if I remember correctly, Morocco got a very late goal to force the game into extra time and then eventually penalties.
Yep.
Oh, and I do need to mention, one of those penalty saves, I think it was from Somerville, the Moroccan goalkeeper. I've never seen a penalty save like that, because he was almost still on his feet, and the goalkeeper shifted to his right. It was very close to the right hand post, and the ball just was at that kind of height. They just palmed it away, which
Yep.
I've never seen that before. It looks quite unique. So yeah, but yeah, they'll be disappointed, Netherlands. But congratulations to Morocco for going through. But yeah, Norway and Ivory Coast. I think I predicted this one I thought that this might actually have a chance to go to penalties this game. But obviously, I'm happy for Norway.
Yep.
I am really happy that they got through. But Ivory Coast, they've impressed me. They did impress me, and one of their, they've had quite a few players at a good tournament. Diallo, coming off the bench, I think he came off the bench and he got a goal. Some people wondered why he didn't start the game. That's easy to say before, after the game. That was very easy to say. I mean, he could have started the game and not got a goal. So for me, it doesn't necessarily mean that, but he's had a good tournament, and he's hit the back of the net, I think, on at least 2 occasions, I think, in this tournament. But yeah, Norway, I just think that they've got something going for them. Their fans have also, just like the Scottish fans, they've also had they've had that rowing kind of, I don't know, like a clapping thing that they've got going on. It's like this viral thing going on and out. It looks really good. So they've got this kind of really good feel factor around the team, around the nation, and I wouldn't mind seeing them go further and further, but we'll see how that goes in the next game. But no, I was happy to see that goal go in from Haaland. It wasn't a convincing one. He just having to hit his leg almost going to the back of the net. I think his teammate Nusa, I think it was, who had a good strike. He scored a good goal. But no, it was good seeing Norway go through. How about some of the other games, Colin? What can you say about those?
The only other two games that have gone so far after that are Mexico and Ecuador, and France and Sweden. Now, we'll leave the best till last. Mexico was the latest game, but the France was previous to that. But let's, like I said, leave France because I wanted to talk more about them. But Mexico, again, one of the other host nations, had a 2-0 win early this morning, which is fantastic again. So we've got 2 out of the 3 host nations progressing, with Canada and Mexico going through, and let's see how the United States get on later in the week. But like I say, Mexico have done really, really well. When Ecuador, people have sort of said, oh, no, they don't fancy them. But like any team that gets through, at the end of the day, when you're in them last 32, anything can happen, and does happen. So for Mexico to keep a clean sheet and progress, then that's really good for the nation, and it keeps the interest in the World Cup, which is really good to see. And I just think that if we progress, then we possibly could be playing Mexico if we win, our next game. So that really will be an interesting game to see. But leaving the best to last, France 3, Sweden 0. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been watching the French, and like we've said, they're more down to great individual players, a bit like Brazil of the past. And if you look at the front 4, and I put them down just to say, with Mbappe, Barcola, Dembele and Elise, what a front 4 France have got. The goals that they have scored are unbelievable. And the performance last night, this could have been 6 or 7, easy. So, I watched them last night and I was drooling at the performances and the ability of all four of them. Obviously, the people behind them are keeping it solid, but it almost is like we regain the ball, we get out the pitch quite early, nothing spectacular, and once it goes, I mean, they've been magnificent from last game previously. They was very sort of prevalent and prominent down the right hand side. But last night it was the left flank where they was very, very strong and able to get in behind, whether it be on the outside to cut back or whether it was coming inside and getting shots off or linking up. So, I looked last night and I'm thinking, wow, if France continue in this vein, there's a potential France-Spain game coming up. If Spain progress, which I think they will. So we've got some delightful games to look forward to, and long may it continue. I don't know what your thoughts are on France and Sweden and Mexico and Ecuador. What did you see?
Mexico have been very impressive. They've one of the host nations, and yeah, and when you're looking at that game against Ecuador, I thought that they would be stronger than Ecuador, and it just showed. That they got the goals that they needed. To get, and they won the game, and it doesn't really surprise me that. And so if we get past Congo, we have a mention about them a bit later on. We're going to have a tough task ahead of us. But France, for me, France have got the most complete squad, because I think they've got the closest to complete as you can when it comes to personnel. Of course, there's room for improvement everywhere in any team, but looking at the squads at the World Cup, I think they've got the team where you can look at. You look at their starting 11. It's solid. If they need someone coming off the bench, they're going to bring on quality, and so that's why before the tournament, that's why I said that. Obviously, I'd like England to win, but I don't think we're there yet. We're not at that level. We're not at that level where France are, and that's why I said we're probably France, and that's why France are my favourites. And as you said, they could have had way more goals yesterday.
Yeah.
Just need to be more clinical as well. See, this is where you say even for a team like France, room for improvement. Unbelievable. If for example up front, if Mbappe doesn't score, they got Dembele. He can get goals. If he doesn't score, then maybe Olise can get goals. Barcola got a goal. And who's to say that some of the players in defence can't get a goal for them, or a player like Tchouameni or Rabiot even can get a goal. They've got also that experience, and they've got a bit of youth. They've got a combination of that. I really, really, really like France, and what I also like about the French football, their head coach Deschamps. He is a winner. He's won the tournament before as a player, and he's such a great football person, and that plus his coaching staff and everything around that means that France are definitely, for me, the team to beat. And I wouldn't fancy, if we had to play France today, I wouldn't fancy our chances. Even though that we've got a lot of talent, just France are just unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to note that, where their players are playing, they're obviously playing out in Real Madrid, PSG and Bayern Munich. So they've got top competition all year round, competing in decent leagues and also playing in the Champions League. And I think that experience is invaluable in terms of, but by the same token, you can look at England and say, well, Kane at Bayern Munich, Rashford's been out in Barcelona, and Saka's been at Arsenal, so and Bellingham as well. If you said they was our front four, so it does compare. So it's just on the day, but like you said, I'd like to know the odds of the French. I think they'd probably be shortening all the time with the competition going on. But yeah, great to see. Moving on, I think we've got England to come tonight, and these are just some games to come that I'm going to outline that haven't been played yet. And then some interesting one with Spain versus Austria, where I'm tipping Spain. USA to beat Bosnia. And like I said, if USA can go through, and then to have the three host nations all through to the last 16 would be fantastic. And then there's that Portugal-Croatia game, which could be close. But if you're going on what's gone on so far, then that's pretty even. But I fancy Portugal to nick that, and then Belgium, Senegal. So we've got some great games coming up. And then you've got Argentina, Cape Verde. That looks a bit one-sided. Australia and Egypt, that could go either way. So one of the sides that progresses there will probably be creating history. And then Switzerland, Algeria, another game. But I fancy Switzerland will have too much for Algeria. And then at the end, there's Colombia and Ghana. So for me, Colombia, again, will be the favourites to win that. So I don't know which out of those games sticks out in your mind as being a classic to come. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna say this because I've had some thoughts about two of those games. I think I think Croatia will beat Portugal. I was just really impressed with the way Croatia,
Yeah.
approached the last game in that group stage. They were very professional, and they showed that experience. And I have not been too impressed with Portugal. So I wouldn't be surprised if Croatia got past them. There's one thing that I will. It just keeps coming back to me. I think there's going to be a little bit of a surprise on the cards because I think Bosnia is going to beat USA for whatever reason. It's just something that inside me. Just I look at
Yeah.
that game and I think USA on paper in this matchup, the way been going, USA. But something just tells me that it's going to be such a awkward game for the US, and I just think something's going to happen there. That body could go to penalties or something. I just got this feeling. I don't know. It might be a wrong feeling, but it's just one of those feelings. And yeah, but apart from that, I think I'll wait till the games are played because I think if it would be great, we could just quickly mention today's game, England Congo.
Yes, I mean, that's fantastic. We've got that to look forward to, and I think we're going to go through that in further detail. We're going to talk again very soon. And then we can talk about, how well Congo have done to qualify and the team that I think that they'll be picked or selected. Now we've got a few injuries, so very much looking forward to that.
I think England. I think we're going to have a good game. I think we can get. I think we can win it about 3-0. I think we're capable of that, and I think we need a confident performance also to give us confidence. Because if we get past this game, we're going to need to be a lot better. We're going to need to improve because Mexico are waiting, and Mexico have shown that they're just a top side at this tournament. So I'm hoping that we have a professional performance, but I hope we're going to have a brave performance, a courageous performance with some goals.
I think we're due one, definitely, because like I say, although we've won, I haven't really seen convincing performance except for the second half of the first game. So for me, there's been a lot of talk back at home, and let's hope that we can, start to gel, be a little bit more fluid, and if we can do that, that will give us hope, certainly, going into the game. And let's not be sort of presumptuous that, we've got to do it against Congo. And then hopefully we will, get the opportunity to play Mexico, which will be fantastic. Now, and it's in Mexico City as well. What a game to look forward to if we win this first game against Congo.
Before we end this video, let's just look into a little bit more detail into that, into the England Congo game. Now you've got some thoughts around that, Colin.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. First and foremost, just to recap, we know how England qualified, but Congo done very well. They drew with Portugal with their opening game, and they went 1-0 down very early on. I think it was an early goal, was sort of 6 or 7 minutes. So to come back and draw with Portugal 1-1, and then in their second game, they only got beat 1-0 by Colombia. So, it's a game where you think Colombia are going to beat them comfortably by 3 or 4, but only conceding one goal tells you something about them. And then their last game, their final game, they beat Uzbekistan 3-1. That allowed them to go on. So, they're no mugs. And if you look within the side, there's a couple of Premier League players in there. Wan-Bissaka who plays for West Ham, is in there, and as a fullback, he's very formidable. And I think there was some statistics saying that he was probably one of the more difficult defenders to beat, and his 1v1 stats are very, very good. So whoever plays on that left side, whether it be Gordon or Rashford, and we come on to selection in a minute, it's going to have problems. And then obviously they've got Wissa from Newcastle up top, so he's capable of nicking a goal on the counter attack. But I think the main thing for England is the selection, and there's been lots of talk around who Thomas will select, and there's been the experts and pundits, giving their two penneth worth, saying who they think should start. But I look at the main problem is around the right back area, which is evident to see when we look at Kwanzaa, who took a knock, and I believe it was ankle. I mentioned that last time, and we think James is still out. So I think Thomas was saying that Kwanzaa's closer to starting or being ready than James is. So that begs the question: who's going to go in right back? And like we said, you have got Stones in there who can play right back. People have even mentioned Rice going in at right back, where he's done that for Arsenal on occasions. But I think he'll go with Spence. Spence has got a little bit of criticism, from Thomas himself during the game when he was playing, and he wasn't following instructions. I think at the time he was playing left back. But I think the nailed on ones for me are Konza at centre back with Gay, O'Reilly at left back, and it's who do you put in at right back? In midfield, I think he'll go Anderson and Rice and Bellingham. And, that can morph whether you start off with a 2 and a 1, with that being Anderson and Rice and Bellingham playing as a 10, or whether it goes straight away where Rice sort of just slides across to the left and can play in that position that he plays for Arsenal, in that advanced left-hand side role. And, if you play those three, then obviously you're going to leave Rodgers out. And for me, I haven't seen enough of Rodgers. I'm hearing pundits and experts keep talking about what he brings to the party, but I just can't see it myself. But we'll wait and see. And then Saka, will he start wide on the right, or will he start with Madueke? But I think he'll go with Saka. And then again on the left, will he start with Rashford or will he start with Gordon? Then I think he'll start with Rashford and Kane up top. So there's lots of ifs and buts and maybes. That'll all be sort of unfold tonight when the game kicks off. I think the press will know at least an hour before. I don't know the World Cup, how long you have to produce the team sheets. But like I said, as soon as that's known, we'll get some idea. But like I said, I think Pickford picks himself. And then it's really about how we're going to play. Are Congo going to sit deep and play on the counter-attack, or are they going to get at us? And if we play out, are they going to be on the front foot and try and press us high up the pitch? But my guess is they'll sit in that sort of mid to deep block and probably play on the counter-attack, and that remains to be seen. So what are your thoughts around who will start and who won't?
Well, I don't think there'll be many changes, to be honest. Of course, there's going to have to be a change, for the players who can't play, who are out. But yeah, I mean, I mentioned it before. I'd like to see, definitely up front, I'd like to see Rashford. I'd definitely like to see Rashford playing because I think he gives you, I think, more than Anthony Gordon at the moment.
Yeah,
Whether Saka will play, well, I think I do expect Saka to play. Because I think if he wasn't meant to play, he'd be injured, and I don't think he's injured, so I think he will play at this stage of the tournament. I think a player like him has to play. Even though I've been impressed with Madueke, but I think it will be Saka. And then we'll see. Maybe I think it works best if Bellingham is in that kind of 10 role, and then you've got Harry Kane up front. Goalkeepers will got to be Pickford. As you said, the defence will see who's going to be on that right side. I don't know if I'd want to see Declan Rice on that right side, to be fair. If he's ready to play, I think he's going to play in his usual position there. You might be right. We might see Jed Spence in there at right back. I don't think I can say too much different from what you said, to be honest. What do you think the score will be?
Well, the wins are most important, but I can't see. I think what we do in England, we over hype the opponents, and Thomas has been, clear in his messages that we expect to qualify and go through. And the media here sort of almost give him a get out of jail card by saying, "Oh, it's a very difficult game. They're going to sit deep." The reality is, how many of those players from DR Congo are going to get English in the English side? Let's be honest. So I think we're very, very kind to the English players now, and I suppose that's a lesson from the past. But no, I fully expect us to go on, and in answer to your score, I can't see why we can't beat them by at least 3 goals. And I think if we can score an early goal just to calm the nerves, like I say, we do have to be patient, but if we do get an early goal, Congo have either then got to come out, which will open the space up behind, which will sort of play into our hands, particularly with the pace we got in those wide areas. And if they sit back, then we can just sort of pop it around, try and draw them out. But again, if we can get a second goal, kill them off, then it can be good that we can get confidence, and we can possibly bring on those that haven't got the minutes, who we might need to play later on in the tournament. So, you could end up getting a 4 or 5, but I would settle, I think, for a 3-0. We need a clean sheet again. And I see no reason why we can't win 3-0 quite comfortably.
Yeah, that's the kind of score that I've got. Has been speaking to me for quite some time. I want to add that this is a game where if we do, if we see a situation where we are, comfortable, where we've got maybe a couple of goals, maybe three, then I'd like to. If he doesn't start, then I'd like him to at least come off the bench, Kobe Mainu, because I think he does add something different. And as you said, later on we might need to have certain players, and Kobe Mainu is a player who can bring a lot, as I said, to the team.
Yeah, I think there's talk in it in this country. Everyone's saying how great Anderson is, and one particular pundit on Sky Sports is talking about leaving him out. And I'm thinking, what you're talking about? You need to start with your strongest team, and then if you get up or you get into a lead or it's not going as you can make changes, and then I think you can rest players, and that would be ideal for Thomas to be able to rest Anderson in particular. But I wouldn't actually leave him out to start with. I think he's needed. Like you said, we can maybe then think about getting on Mainu. Um, Ivan Tony, is Ivan Tony only there to take penalties if it goes to penalties? Um, that remains to me sort of seen. But again, if you look up top, and I'm going, well, Kane's played, he come off last time. I think that sometimes you might need a break. And let's be fair, we talk about the golden boot. Harry Kane's not worried about the golden boot. Of course he would like to win it. But when you look at those that are in front of him, with how many goals they've scored, then obviously I think Harry's got 3, if I'm not mistaken. And, whereas some have got 5 or 6. So that wouldn't be my main thing. It won't be Thomas's main thing. It's all about the result. And again, I think we need to get a better performance, because for me, we have not shown what we are capable of. We've lost that fluidity, and we need to get that back, because if we're going to go on to play Mexico, and I strongly believe we're going to win tonight, even if it was just by an odd goal, I think we need to win in the 90 minutes comfortably with a clean sheet. That takes us on, and we shouldn't really run before we, can walk. But, you're then looking at Mexico City, and if you look, Mexico, as I look, they haven't conceded from the games they've played in. I think they've won 4. They've scored 8 goals and haven't conceded any. So that's going to be a true test. But like I say, Thomas won't be looking ahead to the next game. He'll be purely focused and concentrating on today's game like the players. But us, who are outside of that, are looking beyond. Maybe that's a little bit naive, but, no reason why we shouldn't be looking to that next game. And like I said, I fully expect England to win. But if we can win convincingly with a free flowing sort of game where we create chances, then for me, and then we are able to rest people, that would be the ideal scenario going into that Mexico game.
I definitely agree with you. I don't think we can add too much to this part of the video, so we're going to be slowly wrapping this video up. Any final thoughts around that England Congo game?
No, just I hope that we get off to a good start so everybody can be in a good mood going on to the next game when we play Mexico next Monday.
It's great to chat again with you, Colin, about the World Cup. So I hope you've enjoyed it.
I've loved it. Yeah, you know me, I love talking about the game. Yeah, no, it's been a great World Cup. And like I said, the time watching the games is really good. And England tonight at 5 o'clock. So we're only, as we're talking now, it's 11 o'clock just gone. So we're only 6 hours, less than 6 hours away, looking forward to the big game. So, you know, I'll be like the rest of the nation. People will be rushing home from work to watch that. And hopefully we'll get, you know, the result that we need to progress.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Colin, for today for this episode. And I hope everybody else has enjoyed it. Feel free to subscribe, comment, and share. Notification bell to stay up to date with everything that's on the Coast Turf podcast. And we hope to come back with more videos very soon. All the very best, and come on, England!
Cheers, guys. Bye.